Hello. Good morning. This is Paul Lathrop from Team Clutch. Robot in 3 days. So just want to do a quick day one recap with everyone. Few things we learned before even getting into the build was the fact that the stream piece of it was a lot harder than we thought. So we're working on a couple different things and everything this morning, try to get some better video and to really make it happen and everything in terms of that way teams are able to really get some real-time feedback and everything from us. We've got an IP camera in place and everything. It's just a matter of kind of getting everything to talk. So we're going to try some different things with some different webcams and try to get some better footage and everything today. One thing that's nice is that anything that we have done in terms of our main build space, in terms of our CNC area, all of that footage is being saved to a DVR so we can chunk it out and save it per day after 72 hours and kind of throughout this process. So we apologize for that. Really try and make it happen in terms of getting some good feedback out to teams in real time. So working on that. One of the other hurdles that we ran into yesterday morning was we were really hoping for a small field and not a lot of elements. And we knew after looking at the team list of the half field that most likely we were going to have a ton of different elements. Our goal yesterday afternoon was to have all of an entire half field built prior to calling it a day yesterday. We spent 2 hours at Lowe's working with them, trying to get all the pieces and parts and everything that they had between them and Home Depot, got everything except for a handful of items and everything. But the woodworking that's required for this field is definitely not an easy task. I highly recommend, if you don't have other teams nearby, making those community connections and just kind of teaming up together and just trying to reduce costs for teams, as well as making sure everyone's got an ability to kind of get out there and play. If you're in the greater Richmond area or Chesterfield or what have you, we'll have a half field here at the Chesterfield Tech Center. They'll be open to the public. You just got to message me, shoot me an email at paulelathrop@gmail.com, or if I'm in Twitter, Paul E. Lathrop, or our rookie robotics team on Twitter at 7429 FRC. So those are some of the quick lessons we learned in terms of the admin side for it. If you aren't part of a Robot in 3 days team or haven't ever experienced it, I can tell you that my team and I are absolutely feeling it this morning. We left out of here a little after midnight last night and went home, got a couple hours of sleep. But the energy you get and everything from this experience is unlike anything else. So, even at midnight, after, almost 12 hours being or more than 12 hours being in the room and everything, we were ready to go still. We're still coming up with different ideas and working with the team and everything else. But just as soon as we all got home, we all kind of crashed and everything. So this morning should be fun. We do have our Robot in 3 days team trickling in now. We'll get into what our kind of plan is today and everything. We also have a rookie team coming in this morning, and they'll work for about 8 hours between the morning and the afternoon and continue to make the magic happen and everything for them. We got some good prototyping done. We got some final assembly done and everything yesterday. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like too, what our team looks like and everything. In terms of strategy, we're approaching Robot in 3 days a little differently than some of the other teams are probably approaching it. Some of the teams are trying to show you how to play the entire game. What our goal is to show you what a minimum concept competitive robot would be. So in a perfect world, in our mind, that is a team that's going to be that second pick at the majority of your qualifiers, majority of your district competitions, or your regional events, everything in terms of that. So we came up with a list of attributes, different qualities that the robots are going to have, both from a world championship perspective as well as a minimum concept, super competitive program, the bejesus out of it. So first off, with what we believe in terms of the minimum concept, in terms of this robot is going to need, at a minimum, we believe that for a robot to be competitive, it really needs to be able to both deploy from stage 2 of the platform as well as return to stage 2 of the platform. In terms of minimum concept robot, we think it's very important that if it cannot play all the attributes of the game, we'll talk about that here in a second, then it can climb to the third stage of the platform. The ability to climb to the third stage of the platform means that you need one other robot to fly up to stage 1, the last second of the end game in a match, to guarantee your alliance a ranking point. So again, you basically guarantee a ranking point for your alliance because just about everyone and their brother is going to be able to drive up stage 1 of the platform. So we feel really good about that in terms of it. Obviously, if you've done this before, ranking points are huge. You can go 10-0 or 12-0 or what have you and still not finish in the top 10 because of the number of ranking points you have. So we approached our strategy conversations in terms of getting as many ranking points as possible with this whole thing. In terms of a minimum concept, one thing we determined that is if you're doing the entire game, that the game is to fill the same rocket or a entire rocket. We think it's possible for some of these teams to run 10, 12 second cycles to fill an entire rocket themselves. But again, the idea is to fill the one rocket ship. We're looking at the cargo ship very much similar to be that of the Vault last year, where the further you went in competition, the Vault became less and less important as long as you had the levitate bonus in terms of it. So we're thinking that teams are going to end up filling a rocket, getting the ranking point, and then whatever time's left, really filling the cargo ship because it is so much lower as opposed to trying to go for those higher elevation pieces and parts in terms of the rocket. Again, for the cargo ship, we're talking 8 panels, 8 balls. Some of those can be preloaded. We talked through the importance of, do we load the cargo ship with the cargo, right, the balls, or do we put panels up in terms of autonomous mode or in terms of your pre-match scoring and everything? We think that teams are absolutely going to go and score a panel on a rocket ship during that autonomous hybrid sandstorm period in terms of it. So that's kind of where we're thinking in terms of the minimum concept. So what we're going to try to deliver in the next 3 days is we are using we'll talk about what we're using here in a second. Let me go back to in terms of what we think that championship team is going to use. So I'm going to give a quick shout out to a team that I don't necessarily know in person, but I think everyone in the community knows them, which is the Cheesy Poofs. So here's what we're thinking Cheesy Poofs probably doing in terms of this game, right? So just kind of give you kind of like a different epsilon in terms of what teams are doing. These top teams in terms of championship teams are going to be using vision analysis and vision tracking. We have a Limelight version 2 that will be shipped here. It will arrive tomorrow afternoon, so we're hoping to get a couple hours of coding in it in terms of showing teams what they can do and everything with that. So we purchased that through Andy Marks. We're really excited about that. We think it's possible. We think only a handful of teams are going to be doing this. So I'm sure I'm going to get comments and feedback and everything for this. And the programming mentors for Cheesy Poofs and the programming kids will probably really love me. We think it's possible for those upper echelon teams to really score a panel on autonomous and then come back and throw 2 balls somewhere in a cargo ship or in a rocket. We think that's really going to be what those teams are doing in terms of autonomous. We think realistically a lot of teams are going to be able to score a panel and potentially a ball in autonomous within that last second or so. It all depends on what speed you have, how controlled you're coming off of these platforms, what have you. We think teams are absolutely going to start with the panels as opposed to the cargo balls in autonomous. And we're going to keep running some numbers and some algorithms and everything in terms of that. It's a 3-point swing in terms of the points, right? But what's nice is that having the panels up guarantee you the ability to start throwing balls in. In our opinion, the balls are the easiest element to pick up. Not that the panels aren't, but in terms of cycle times, we think the balls are going to be quicker. So if we can knock out a panel on autonomous mode, especially on the rocket ship, it's going to absolutely help us out in terms of making some quick cycles for the rest of the game. Again, like we said, when we're in Detroit or Houston, right, those teams are really thinking what's going to happen is it's going to be you hit this rocket, we fill this rocket, we kill the other rocket, and then we have a team as a defender, and that team as a defender comes back the last minute or so, throws some stuff in the cargo ship, and then climbs to level 3. One robot comes on the platform. It's a 4 ranking point match. Everyone goes home happy and healthy and everything in terms of that. So that's kind of what we're thinking in terms of what that World Championship winning kind of robot looks like and the minimum concept team looks like. We think that minimum concept team can absolutely be even that second pick in terms of the World Championship. One thing that we also noted was the fact that without having that designated autonomous mode, we think those same teams that are really strong in autonomous are going to be really strong in terms of the sandstorm period. It's a different kind of thing. It relies on vision, or at least some really solid driving consoles. So we're excited to see what teams are going to be doing in terms of having, maybe bigger monitors and just how they're going to be able to balance the bandwidth issue that some teams have in terms of vision. So that's kind of what we're thinking in terms of that. Going into what our plan is for the robot in 3 days. So from our sponsor, Andy Mark, so we want to thank Andy Mark and all the amazing people there, Danny, Andy, of course, like the entire team, absolutely phenomenal to work with. I'm really excited to be a part of this build season for them. So what we ended up doing is with our sponsorship, we ended up getting a bunch of the new compliant wheels. So we have right here, just got a handful of different ones. So we got some 2-inch hex, maroon durometer ones. We've got some different size of the other compliant wheels. So these are the 3 1/4 and again, the 2-inch compliant wheels. So again, they're just improving in everything, their quality. Really love the stuff. Just making prototyping, and I'm just going from our students and our mentors' ideas in terms of reality that much quicker. So we got some of those parts. We also got some Redline motors. We got the new pneumatic wheels, the 8-inch HD pneumatic wheels with the hex fitting inside. Got a handful of other things, everything in terms of it. Here's what our plan is, what our design is. Our plan for this build, like I said, is to make the minimum concept robot possible. Now, that also being said, we want to try out a bunch of these new products, both for Andy Mark and a bunch of other vendors in the community, so that you guys have the feedback that you can make these purchases in the next week or two. And again, you have the resources to know what works, what doesn't work in terms of this particular year. I can assure you all of these products are absolutely phenomenal, and just making it happen in terms of that. Our plan for the robot in 3 days is we are using the AM 4U chassis that is in the standard kit of parts, and it is in there again this year. One modification we made is we are doing our 8-inch HD pneumatic wheels in that drivetrain. So all the pulleys fit, the belts in the kit, everything works. So we're really excited about that. And checking last night, because apparently that's what you do after 12 hours, 12, 13 hours of building, is check their website again. They do offer the upgrade kit for that. So there'll be an upgrade kit in terms of using those 8-inch wheels with the standard kit of parts frame. So our plan is to do that. We're going to use the gearboxes, the tough boxes that are in the kit of parts. So again, using a lot of these kit of parts things, trying to show teams that what you have absolutely can do it, and what the limitations, if there are limitations, everything, what they look like. One modification that we did make, I'm going to bring it up real quick, to the frame is we are not using sim motors. We are trying to give teams feedback on one of the, really, I guess, 2 of the items in the second round of first choice this year, which is the Rev Neo motors and Spark Max motor controllers. So before kickoff, there was documentation in terms of how to do PWM with these motors. Our plan is by the end of these 3 days to get some additional information out there in terms of CAN, or at a minimum, at least just backing up the information that Rev Robotics sent out and everything in terms of the documentation for the brushless motors. Couple cool things that's willing to be noted here. One mod that needs to be made if you are trying to make the pneumatic wheels happen is we did have to go to the long version of the hex in terms of the gearbox. So we did make that modification in terms of gearbox. Everything else is standard in terms of that. We lost a little bit of space, obviously, right, because the wheel is bigger. But with that, the Rev brushless motors are about an inch and a half smaller than the Sims. So we kind of maintained our space, at least in terms of the center of the chassis, right about here, in terms of what our distance to distance kind of look like with it. We're excited to try these things out. I know teams are excited about them. A lot of the veteran teams tried to see what made sense, and it's like, okay, do we make this investment with it, because it is absolutely an investment in terms of spending that money and everything with it. Again, you do get your $40 credit from Rev Robotics in terms of your virtual kit of parts team. So make sure you're using that either on one of these motors or motor controllers, depending on what you feel comfortable this season. Use some credits. You should have gotten 200 credits in terms of last round and everything. Or if you didn't use your credits in the first round, you got some other credits and everything in terms of it. So that's kind of what our base plan is. So our base plan is using that chassis. And then that takes us to manipulator, right? So we're not planning on playing but so much in terms of a vertical component with this game. We're going to stay low and productive. That's what we call it in terms of corporate retail world. So we're going to stay low and productive. We're going to take the panels. We're going to take the balls. We're going to intake the balls using some sort of withdrawal real quick. So we've talked about a couple different mechanisms for it. We talked about, we are calling this essentially the Alien. So if you're familiar with the Alien movie franchise, we're talking about essentially intaking the ball into some sort of triangular space, right? And in the center of that, potentially having some sort of a punch to be able to push said panel and everything up. So we're trying to keep everything on that same intake if possible. So this is one idea. One of the other concepts that we were talking in terms of the panel was essentially having something on a piston such that there's a C on each side or some sort of angle on each side that basically hugs up against that panel. So if I'm grabbing a panel, something that's protruding inward and kind of hooking the outside, but not protruding as much as my fingers, obviously, and being able to kind of push and place with it. So we feel pretty strong about that. We did some rough prototyping in terms of with some intake wheels yesterday, not motorized, but making it happen in terms of that. One other thing that we had in terms of a intake potential that we are going to probably not experiment so much with over the next 2 days, but we did try it, is we ended up, we'd purchased last year, but we hadn't put it together, a Armabot vacuum attachment for the Redline or RS775 Pro motor. So again, this is one of our products that we received through the generous sponsorship through Andy Mark. This thing hums like none other, which is great. We saw one of the teams in the district use it to be able to pick up the power cubes, and we're picking up the power cubes and placing them up high in the scale last year and just making it happen. The reason we're going to not necessarily play with this is that without having some sort of a coupler for this, so sort of like a suction cup kind of adapter for this that we would have to create and everything over the next 2 days, we're not getting the suction and the compression that we need for the panel or the ball. We thought the panel was going to like it a little bit more, but the ball actually kind of stuck a little bit and then kind of weed it off. It's not a suction issue. It's that coupler making a nice seal around both the ball and the panel. So in 3 days, we are going to stay away from this, but this is an absolutely incredible assembly that Armabot has, we think, at an amazing price and everything, that during the off season or during even your 6 weeks and everything, this is a viable option for teams. They posted a lot of new different products and everything too this season. Some of them, like the turret and the LiDAR avalanche and everything, and I know those orders are shipping out early next week. So something else to kind of keep your eye on in terms of that. A couple other things I want to show real quick is, so I want to just show our wheel assembly real quick. So this is at HD Pneumatic, 8-inch wheel from Andy Mark. So if I've been doing this 14, 15 years, some as a student, some as a mentor for a handful of teams. I can tell you that as a team member and a mentor, the old style of this was not super fun to put together, right? You had to get the tube in there just right. You had to, bolt through this thing with these long bolts, all this stuff. It just wasn't super fun to put together. Great wheels, just not super fun to deal with the hub. And then we had to put in a hub adapter and all that, right? It just seemed like a lot of hardware. This new wheel is sturdier, and it literally took us no more than like 2 minutes to put each one together. If nothing else, and again, there's a lot of other benefits for it, it just looks cool, right? It looks just like the other static wheels and everything that Andy and his team have created over there at Andy Mark, and it just gives that kind of elegant and sleek vibe and everything to it. We ended up, again, putting those pulleys on there and everything from the kit of parts, so they mount beautifully on there. We ended up putting a bearing on this side. You want to make sure you don't put a bearing on both sides, because we learned that if you do that, and my team corrected me because I was the one who did it, then stuff doesn't necessarily line up. So again, one bearing on the outside, no bearing on the inside, and of course you've got your hex axle output here. They do also carry the one to go ahead and, if you just wanted to have it free spinning and everything, just as a guide wheel, you can press a bearing and everything on the other side. We tried a couple different intake ideas, like we said. So this one here uses the Andy Mark 4-inch green compliant wheels. So again, we talked about, do we want one thing like this, or do we want a top and bottom, or do we want kind of like a trident kind of thing? So we're trying different things in terms of that, and just making it happen in terms of that. Here's what our plan is for today. So my team is just about all here now. We got to run to Lowe's real quick and get some spacing material. We're going to keep going in terms of building the rocket. So we have all the wood cut for the rocket, and we have all the wood cut for the base of the platform. So our goal is platform and rocket, 100% built today in terms of field construction. So we'll be working on that. In terms of other fun things going on, we did CAD in terms of our 8-inch pneumatic wheel assemblies going into the AM4U frame. So we'll be releasing CAD, whatever other documents and everything we have towards the end of this build. We're going to CAD a bunch today, at least this morning. In terms of manipulator, we're trying some different things in terms of try to see if we can push down on stage 3 and just drive up, or if we can, it was hilarious actually. We were talking some different ideas, and we have a bunch of new mentors on the team, especially on the rookie team, right? And one of the things that came up was, there's Dean Kamen, and in this one wheelchair that he had, years ago and everything, it fluctuated how it moved. And we started pulling videos of that, and we're like, that's hilarious that we're looking at videos of, Dean Kamen's inventions to essentially play a game that he helped influence and everything. So that's one other piece of advice I'd say. Look everywhere for inspiration. One of our members' girlfriends, I actually sent I'm going to totally mispronounce it because I'm 30 years old, but one of those gifts out in terms of a robot climbing stairs, like this little tiny robot climbing stairs, and it's just throwing an arm back and just kind of lifting it up. So we're actually going to try to prototype this thing, just because his girlfriend found this random image, moving image and everything on Facebook or whatever. So we're going to try that. So really we're going to spend a couple hours this morning on CADing both the mechanism to go from stage 1 to stage 3, because that's the plan, as quick as possible, as well as trying to finalize some intake for both of these two game elements. Our goal is to have, and it's a lofty goal, is to have electrical all prepped at least, or ready to mount to the robot. Tomorrow morning, we'll say drivetrain done, 100%. So gearboxes, belts, all that good stuff, and that'll be done probably here in the next hour. And anything machined and manufactured, assembled in terms of the point scoring mechanism and everything too. We really want to spend tomorrow on vision and troubleshooting and tweaking some stuff. And again, our plan is really to just drive this thing like we stole it and just kind of show teams what each and every one of these things can do and some of the things that they need to consider in their build. So really excited about that. Don't think I'm forgetting anything. If I do, we will continue to update you guys as much as possible. Again, just want to make sure that I've got all the good contact information for us. We'll be watching comments and everything on our live stream today best we can and trying to answer any questions. But if you have any questions, if you can tweet us, you can tweet us at FRC7429 or at Paul E. Lathrop. Or if you have any other information that you would need and everything in terms of that, if you just go to Paul E. Lathrop at gmail.com and just shoot me an email. We'll try to respond to you guys as quick as possible. Other than that, have a great day. We'll be starting up here in a second with the live stream. And as always, stay clutch. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.